air this?
Probably the end of March.
Okay.
I mean, we could push it up, whatever. I think it'll be the end of March, though.
Okay.
All right. I don't do a lot of in-persons, but I will definitely do an in-person for my friend Steve Turigliatto. Steve Turigliatto is someone who I look at as a mentor, as somebody who I want to replicate when it comes to being a sportsman, and someone who, like, since like my inception of being a like big game hunter, has kind of took me under his wing and helped me out with things. So, Steve, how you doing?
Good. You want to start over?
No, what did I do wrong?
It's Trigliatto.
Trigliatto. Oh, whatever. That's perfect. Trigliatto.
You know, Italian names, buddy.
Trigliatto. No.
Yeah.
Whatever. I butchered his name. Well, whatever. I've been saying his name wrong for over a decade now, probably 12 years in. So.
I think I was my third year of college before people could say it or I could spell it, you know. So
well, anyways, Steve Turigliatto, welcome to the Tricer Podcast. Excited to have you on, my friend.
Thank you, Drew. It's great to be here.
So Steve, are you 75 now? Where are you at?
I'll be 77 on opening day of turkey season.
77?
March 29th, yeah.
And still out there. Steve is still traveling all over the West, hunting turkeys in Utah every year, traveling to Montana and Canada every year. I mean, just somebody who truly loves, especially the wing shooting. I know he loves deer too, but has just been when it comes to San Diego turkey and NWTF, Steve has been just such a huge person in that movement and bringing birds here and keeping the birds here, because California doesn't want them. If California had their way, they're not putting them back in. And Steve's just been, and that, and then also the youth stuff that Steve does is just incredible. So, Steve Turigliatto.
Yeah. Thank you, Drew. Yeah, it's a passion, and I hope as all of us get older, it's pretty much about passing it on now. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still like pulling the trigger, but I enjoy probably far more watching somebody else. Our youth turkey hunts here in San Diego County, which, are a miracle that we're able to hunt the county and city properties that we have. And it's one of the most exciting things you can do is to watch a kid shoot their first turkey or their first deer, first anything, waterfowl. And that's really what I like these days. I mean, it's kind of where it's at. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely do. I see you out there with old automatic, man. Just kids just pounding them.
He has got a passion for hunting. There's no doubt about it. Gosh, he got 3 turkeys last year. We hunted waterfowl more this year together. And I mean, doves. It doesn't matter. He's a shotgun guy. Probably because he's old enough now. He's 14, so he's old enough to start hunting big game. And I venture to say by this coming season, I'll have him into deer hunting as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just a local kid. I believe the story is single mom, right?
Well, his mom's remarried, but the new husband doesn't hunt. His father did hunt and fish. But his new stepdad doesn't hunt. So his mom, who is just an incredible mom, she gets up at 1:30 in the morning to take him to San Jacinto Wildlife Area, to Worcester, all these different places. And she's a great mom, is all I got to say. Yeah, she goes with him a lot.
Yeah, it's cool to see that. And one cool thing about that kid too, this whole podcast isn't about Otto, but seeing a kid who is teaching himself to call and getting himself out there, it's very similar to when I was a kid, right? Like, no one took me hunting. I went and got my own hunting license at 13 and kind of like forced my way into my friends' parents' hunting trips to go hunt birds in the valley, in El Centro, or, I shot my first pheasant and I kind of just figured it out on my own. And where I look at my kids, and I'm not knocking my kids. I mean, my 16-year-old is going to far succeed me in hunting. He's a phenomenal hunter, but they've kind of been like just brought along. And it's neat to see a kid go out and do that. And the reason why he's able to do that mostly is in part to what NWTF is doing and some of the other things we're doing in San Diego with youth shooters.
Yeah, I think that, having the youth experienced what, especially me. I mean, I'm 77. I was raised in Southern California, and I've had many people ask me, "Gosh, how do you know so much about hunting and fishing?" Well, in 1950s, this didn't look like this. I mean, this area was full of ponds. You could shoot all over the place. People, believe it or not, carried guns, in their rack of their cars and trucks. In high school, I was raised in Long Beach, but Cypress and Cerritos and areas like that were called Dairy Valley, and it was all dairies and wildland. Where Disneyland is today was orange groves, and hence Orange County. And
Hmm.
so I had hunting all around me, and I could ride my bike and fishing all around me. And so uh, my dad belonged to a hunting and fishing club. My dad is from Kansas. My mom's from Oklahoma, both hunting families. And so I got to experience it at a young age, and I was pretty much raised in it. Kids today have peer pressure. I mean, just say you're hunting or killing something, you know, makes a lot of them cringe. And so Otto's the exception. Um, but I can say, even when I was in high school, I had very few friends that hunted. A lot of them fished, but very few hunted. And so I think just our society in general, that's been kind of the way it's been even since our country was first discovered. There were the hunters, and then there were the gatherers, And so, yeah, we're a breed that we like to hunt, and provide. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
we should kind of talk. We have no agenda for this pod today, and you asked what we want to talk about. I was like, oh, we'll just figure it out. There is this cycle in life, right, where you start and you just want to go kill something and want to go hunting, and then you kind of want to learn how to shoot, big animals, and then you want to go to like the giving back, and that's kind of where you are now, obviously, right? I think I'm there. I still like to kill stuff, but
yeah,
I do like taking people out. But let's kind of talk about the 50s and hunting. Let's talk about the Sierras. What that was like. Cause Steve, if you ever follow Steve like on Facebook, you should follow him on Facebook or even on like one of the local hunting forum here. Steve is the guy that has the pictures of the old Jeeps with deer on the back and everybody in the flannels, right? And Steve's in a
right.
flannel and jeans and they're up in the Sierras shooting giants. So let's kind of talk about that. Let's talk about like hunting back in the 50s and we'll kind of work our way up here.
Yeah. So I shot my first deer in 1959 in the Sierras. I was at the headwaters of that would be the West Walker River out of Bridgeport,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is now X9A. In those days, you went and bought a deer tag. I mean, simple as that. We didn't have Turners, but we had sporting goods stores, and you just purchased the deer tag, and you could hunt anywhere in the county, um, or I'm sorry, in the state. And so, if you didn't get a deer in the Sierras, in the management part of it was there were seasons, and so the Eastern Sierras historically is opened the last or next to last Saturday of September
Mm-hmm.
through the first Sunday or second Sunday of October.
Even back then, huh?
Yeah,
Oh, wow. It's the same today. That's really
same
neat.
today. And so what made good seasons and bad seasons were either early snows or no snow at all or dry years, and so the animals themselves stayed super high. The guys that were hardcore and could walk, um, they would, shoot more quality bucks. The years that we had big snows early, then a lot of big bucks were taken. And so nature kind of took care of itself. If you didn't get a deer there, then you could hunt in San Diego County, Riverside County, anywhere you wanted in the state of California, just with owning a deer tag. This micromanaging that we have today, that they say that, well, there's more people, so we have to manage closer. Well, I beg to differ a little bit. I think there were many more hunters in the 50s and 60s. That was a way of life for many people, and the opening day in the Sierras was an event. I mean,
It was like Dove in the Valley.
it was like Dove in the Valley. I mean, all you could see were plaid red everywhere. We didn't have blaze orange in those days. And so, it was an event in Bishop, Bridgeport, Colville. I mean, you name it, Lone Pine, Big Pine. I mean, it was just packed. And, and we had just as many deer and bigger deer than we have today. And so, um, I know that management is an important thing. I question sometimes the management of a lot of species, but our deer herds and the other thing, and this is a big one, and especially the Sierras, but especially here in San Diego County for our deer herd, is that lions were fair game back then, and they actually had a bounty on lions because it was a management tool and to enhance our deer herds. And so you were allowed 55 for a male, I think it was, and 65 for a female. So if you shot a lion, there was actually a bounty on them. And it was year round.
$55 is a gun back then.
Back in those days, you could buy a gun for that kind of money.
That's a big deal. I mean, that's like saying, hey, we're going to give you $800 for a deer today. I mean, it has to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So management back in those days was emphasized on increasing our deer herds. And now, I mean, we can't touch bobcats. Recently they tried to make it so we couldn't hunt coyotes, and mountain lions have been, off of hunting for quite some time. And I mean, if you do the math, I mean, it's pretty easy. They eat one deer about every 10 days. And just here in Julian, and I can speak of San Diego County much better than I can of the Eastern Sierras or the Sierras in total. I mean, our deer herds are dropping like flies. I mean, our places that were so many deer are the numbers are way down, and I get trail cam pics of lion after lion after lion, and it's hurting us, I think, pretty good.
Oh yeah, those things are apex predators. I look at my stupid feral cat that I have at my house, and that thing's killing a bird or a mouse every day, and that's a cat versus a lion's killing deer, deer once a week.
Yeah.
So you're back in the 50s, you're hunting up there. I mean, you guys are shooting some quality bucks.
There were really quality bucks back then. Again, it was really weather, oriented. You'd get those snows. I mean, we would drive from Long Beach to the Sierras for the weekend. And nowadays, I mean, people, oh man, it's so far. I mean, try driving 395 when it was, 2 lanes, all the way, and it took 6, 7, 8 hours to get there. And my dad, we would hunt Saturday, hunt Sunday morning early, and drive home. And he'd go to work on Monday morning. And if we knew snow was hitting or the Sierras got hit, it was on. I mean,
that tag today takes 25 years to draw.
Yeah.
So back then, I mean, most of these guys, like was your dad or family, were they World War II guys or?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So they came home from the war and they had sporterized.
Yeah.
What were they shooting?
My dad, and I still have it, by the way, a Remington, I think it's a 742, 270. It was kind of the gun that competed with the Model 70 Winchester, which was really the gun to own in that era. And I still have the 30-06 that we had. And so the 270, Queen of the Mountain guns with Jack O'Connor. And my dad bought that in 1947 and shot every single deer and his elk with that same rifle. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I did this thing this year, and people were always sick of me talking about the podcast. I did this thing we talked about before this, where I just shot a Woodstock 30-06 for everything this year, and it killed everything. And there's something to be said about like owning a gear company. Like I'm guilty of it too, right? Like, yes, you need the best tripod to find your deer, but we get caught up, especially in the rifle side of things, with I've got to have the new fandangled cartridge, the new rifle, the carbon fiber, this or that. And man, from ethical hunting ranges, which I mean, honestly, I kind of think is at like 400 yards and in. Even out to 500, most of these cartridges are more than plenty, right? That 270 is more than plenty out to 600 yards, especially with today's stuff. A lot of these big crazy cartridges we have now, like the 300 PRC and the 65 PRC, really don't start performing past 600 yards, past your regular Creedmoor or your regular 270, or your 30-06. And it's almost hard to find a deer at that distance.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to, you always have to try to find an animal at 700 yards to shoot it,
Right.
But man, those guys, like you said, they were out there in jeans.
Yep.
Freaking probably Doc Martens. I don't know what boots they're running, and flannels and some suspenders, and they were getting it done. And today we've kind of gone into this, I'm guilty of it. I've got $15,000 on my back. You're wearing a Sitka jacket. That hoodie was $70. You know what I mean? And we're guilty of it. We all are. And it is, don't get me wrong, it is comfortable. And I like being able to go out for 10 days. I'm going to go to Alaska this year for 8 days. And I don't want to do it in jeans because I want to be able to be comfortable the whole time.
Right.
Something to be said, about hey, yeah, we used to ride horses. Now we drive cars. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's something to be said about that. But man, they just got it done back then. They didn't need to have all the gear.
I'm not going to say the men of that era, the greatest generation, were tougher, but I think they were.
Oh God, they're tougher.
Yeah. I mean, I remember vividly my dad, cold, and we didn't have Under Armour. We had Long Johns, and
the whole bodysuit Long John with a little butt flap,
flannel shirts and a red cap. And I obviously have posted quite a few pictures like this of that era. And the one thing we did have that we could do that we can't do today is we had Jeeps.
Yeah.
And side-by-sides were a big deal now. But back then, all those Jeeps coming out of the war, guys like my dad bought those. And the Sierras especially, and Nevada, Tonopah, we would get on old wagon trails, 2 tracks, and go up into country that I am sure that these deer never saw a vehicle in their life. And so the animals themselves have always been kind of afraid of man, but we got to experience country where we could drive. Now, granted, we walked a lot. I mean, where I shot my first deer, I still can't believe that we actually got this buck up there. But I think we were at 12,000 or something above the tree line. It was just gnarly rock, and there were 4 bucks together. And I know nowadays it's frowned upon to shoot running deer. And my first buck was running. And I saw my dad shoot a lot of deer running. And so we walked to get there, but we had driven up wasn't McGee Creek. It was McMillan Creek out of Bridgeport.
The cool thing is most of the stuff really, other than you're not able to drive your car up there anymore, that country is the same today. I don't want you guys coming to California to listen to this podcast. California sucks. Don't hunt here. But seriously, that country is beautiful, and you should hunt there if you get a chance because it hasn't changed today. And there's a lot of archery opportunities up there still. I know the rifle tags are hard. I know California gets knocked a lot, but man, I'll put the Sierras up against anywhere I've ever hunted.
Yeah, you can still pack into those. You can 100%. Walk, and you can still pack into those places. Yeah. The guys that can walk that kind of distance. And we're not talking, you can do rough camps, and there's old miners' cabins in most of these canyons. That's where we stayed. We stayed in these old miners' cabins. And if you haven't been up to Horton Creek or Horton Lakes, there's still a miner's cabin there that is really cool. First come, first serve, so you can stay there. I shot a beautiful 3x3, 3x4 there when I lived in Bishop. And it just, brought back memories. This was in about 85, I think it was. It was the last years where it wasn't X9A. And, but just, you're right, Drew, that country looks no different today than it did when I was a kid, small kid.
So you shot that first buck. Was that with a fixed 4-power scope and what rifle were you shooting?
I was shooting my grandpa's Savage Model 99 308 with a fixed 4-power Weaver.
Really?
Yeah, Weaver, and I think even Bushnell was around then, but Weaver was kind of the
the oval Weaver, the metal one.
oval. It was,
Oh God, when those things hit you in the eye,
yeah.
Oh, it's so much worse than the scopes today. You just get
yeah,
cut.
yeah. Everything was a 2.5 or 4-power. I mean,
Really?
that's and maybe that's why shooting running deer were a little different, because everybody, I don't know who I was with last year, but he had it was my son-in-law, Jacob.
Too
And,
zoomed in.
huh?
Too zoomed in.
He had it too zoomed in. And once the deer started moving, couldn't find it.
Yep.
And wasn't it was a bit of a poke moving, but not that big. I mean, 117 yards or something like that. And once it started moving, couldn't find it. And so, that's the difference on that 2.5. I would have saw the whole mountainside, and
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot's changed, but a lot of it hasn't changed. And that part of it, I don't recall, and I'm sure it happened, but I don't recall the old guys back in those days talking about shooting 400 yards.
No.
We hunted deer like we were hunting with archery. We tried to get as close as possible to deer, and there were a lot more deer.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, back then it's holdover, right? So you're talking a 270. But I mean,
Yes.
I'll tell you what, we went out. We're going to Texas next week to hunt buffalo. My father-in-law's got a buffalo tag. I'm sure I'll post it on the site. And he's shooting his 45-70 with a fixed 2. And I shot his fixed 2 yesterday, 200 yards. That's a poke with a fixed 2. I mean, it's like, that's not much magnification at 200 yards. So yeah, I can see how you get out to 300 yards. That's really becoming a poke.
Yeah, there's a little bit of guesswork starts going in
There's
there,
a
and your
little bit of
crosshairs
guesswork.
are as big as the animal you're shooting at. So
I tell you what, I pulled the trigger yesterday and that target went ding, and I was like, I was lucky. It was like that's a poke with that thing. I was standing up. We have that new Tricer X tripod, the hexagon leg one with the crazy gun clamp on it. So I was standing 200 yards off a 45-70, just ringing steel. It's pretty impressive. But most of the time you're back then, you're shooting offhand, or off your buddies. We've all done the off the buddy shoulder thing, at a buck.
Yeah.
So I love that 308s to this day. And that's where like some of this stuff where people get so caught up and like, I want you to Creed more or whatever. Both my boys and both my partners shoot 308s. And for me, I think it's like the perfect balance of like an entry level rifle that does do all rifle, right? Like we've killed animals up, 430 yards with that rifle, full pass throughs with the 168 grain TTSXs, and it just works, man. And it's a ton of recoil, and honestly, it's a little more forgiving than the Creedmoor when it comes to like kids. Like I've had some like marginal shots. Like I had Drew shoot a deer a little bit far back, liver shot this a couple years ago, and it went 10 yards and died because it just a 308 did so much damage and put such a big hole in it, just bled everywhere.
Yeah. How's it with copper? I mean,
It's phenomenal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I like the bigger funnel diameter with copper, right? So I mean, we killed. I'll show you a picture of him, but I think you saw the buck. Ed just posted up Isaac's buck that we shot.
Yeah.
He shot that buck at 384 this year.
Man.
And it just
was that the Utah buck?
It's the Utah buck.
I love that.
That buck's a bruiser.
You talked to one of my buddies over there that I turkey hunt with, and I'm glad he sent you where he did. We turkey hunt right where you were.
Yeah.
In that area, and gosh, I mean, I see a lot of. I mean, it's just loaded with deer.
There's that buck, dude. I'll tell you what, Steve. We spent 4 or 5 days up really high in this burn and just could not. That kid passed up 15 bucks. And then that buck was, no joke, a mile from the road in a little hole, a mile from the road on both sides. You could see it from the road.
Yeah.
Everyone drove by it. It was just like, I think that's one of the tricks people are missing out on now is everyone wants to go deep, right? I'm building these ultralight tripods and I have all the ultralight gear. So everyone's going deep. And there's kind of that, like, I don't want to say front country. It's kind of like that mid country.
Yes.
That mid country, that 1 to 2 miles deep where I'm finding a lot of animals, man. Yeah. And I've just been, it's kind of unfair now how much I get to hunt and kind of, the more you see it, the more you hunt, the easier it gets. But man, I'm really thinking that mid country, there's some bruisers of elk and deer. You don't have to go as deep because a lot of guys are going too deep now and pushing them back to that mid country. So there's the front country, like the road stuff, the
Yeah.
back country that everyone's going, and that mid country, there's a lot of deer getting walked by on the way into the back country.
Yeah, I have said that for many years. The biggest buck I've ever shot in the Eastern Sierras was, I don't know, quarter a mile, half a mile from the road. I was looking down on 395 out of Bridgeport, and everybody was going deep, and the migration was on. I'll give it that. We had big snow, and the migration was on, and I had a gut feeling. I found a great deer trail and kind of set up on it, and I heard a sound, and I looked back, and this guy was antlers to the brush, and I heard it, and I turned around, and I happened to get him. But yeah, I was a half a mile, quarter of a mile, drug him down to the highway, and like the easiest hunt I've ever had. So.
I'll take an easy one, man. I had a couple of easy ones this year, and it was like, it's nice to get an easy one. I had a few where I got my butt kicked. So what were you guys, you're shooting 270s, 308, 30-6s, obviously, then came like the rim mags and stuff, but were you guys just shooting Remington Core-Loks? Were you shooting the Nosler AccuBonds back then, probably?
Core-Loks, buddy.
Core-Loks?
Core-Loks, yeah.
It's cheap, right?
Yeah, and my dad, for whatever reason, really liked Winchester silver tips. I'm not sure that they even make silver tips anymore. I still have some. It looks kind of like our newer shells with the
polymer tips.
Polymer tips,
but it was lead.
But it was, well, I'm not sure it was lead even, but because it's silver, it probably is lead. But mushroomed, like, and the big complaint was it ruined too much meat back in those days for guys. So a lot of guys didn't shoot them, but my dad really liked them. Really liked silver tips. Yeah.
It is funny, man. Like I said, how much time and thought we put into our stuff now, and these guys are just pulling up to a freaking gas station, grabbing some Core-Loks, some 30-6 Core-Loks, going out to the hills and killing deer, and they died. Yeah. And you guys back then, like, this whole packing a deer out in pieces is kind of new. Like back then, it was like you drag the whole thing out and do like a deer tree, right?
You drug everything. I don't recall one old timer or anybody even mentioning. Well, I'll take that back. Elk were different
pieces.
But, we pieced elk, but we never pieced out deer. We drug them out, and my dad literally that first buck I ever shot, I was young, 12. He threw that thing on his back and carried it out of this ravine. It was not a canyon; it was a ravine, so to speak. But carried it up to the top so we could carry it down the other side into the valley where we were. And that's kind of how those guys were, I mean, you drug everything. And to this day, I still never have done that. I still drag. And,
I know you do. I built you a deer cart. And I know all about it.
He built me a great decoy cart.
Yeah. It's had some dead deer, some ducks in it. Yeah. So, yeah, we just shot those Coues deer. We shot like 8 Coues deer down there in Mexico over a couple weeks ago. And my buck, it was my first time ever doing the deer backpack. So where you, that right below the elbow on the rear legs, you slice open between like I guess that'd be like the femur and the tendon. And then you cut the knuckles on the front legs and you break them, but you leave the hair. So it's like a backpack. And then you shove the front legs through the back legs and put it on like a backpack, and you hold the front legs. And I've seen a lot of videos of guys doing that back then. Yeah. And so I carried that thing. I didn't even gut it because I didn't want to get covered in blood. I mean, you do got the cock and balls right on your back, so that kind of sucks. But I mean, it worked, and I was like, this is pretty efficient.
And it was a Coues deer.
It was a Coues deer. It wasn't a freaking. I'll tell you what, the mule deer Isaac shot this year was like 240. It was.
I was going to say.
Some of these bucks we shot in Colorado this year were
Coues deer.
Our mule deer here, like in San Diego, we had this like Pacific hybrid. I don't know. We can get into that later. Yeah. But like the mule deer I shot in Colorado this year were like, there's like an inch or two of fat around these things. You know what I mean? They're so much bigger than the deer we have here. And like, we basically have something in between like a whitetail and a Coues deer sized body on our bucks here in San Diego, maybe 140 pounds or something,
Yeah.
150.
200 pounders.
See some big guys?
I've got some 200 pounders here. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they eat apples and pears and, the ones that, are in our East County, a lot of them eat really good stuff, I was taught early on to, always hunt uphill. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was part of that theory, is that you always hunted uphill, and you would get back in there where you did have to. That same buck I shot at Horton, I actually shot it on a little kind of plateau, and I had nowhere to go but down. And the deer knew that this big snow was coming. It was the day, or I think it was the day before we got hit really hard. And this is up in Bishop area and Horton, and I had to drag it downhill, and I knew I was in trouble because I had to drag it up the other side. And it took me a long time, and I started to go up the other side, and finally I just decided I was going to take it down the creek all the way as far as I had to go until I came to a road, and it was a long ways. And so I was always taught you hunt uphill so you don't have to drag up and down. So that was just a different philosophy. Guys nowadays, they throw these things on their back, they cut them up and they do good things. Good hunters, go wherever it takes.
Yeah, I mean Isaac's stupid buck this year was like 1,000 feet uphill. We had to go up 500, then drop down 1,000 and carry that thing out. And it was, oh gosh, that was a good pack out with that thing on our back. We did the whole thing, just two of us, and got him out. But
yeah,
it's
the
it's
backpacks and things nowadays are superior to my days. I've got a picture of my dad with this little. Gosh, I don't think it was military, but it's possible. The wooden flat backpack that he's got on, and I mean, I can't even imagine what that must have felt like. Carrying a deer out on that. But I think they put it on that, and then they carried the.
Well, now
deer
you can
whole.
go and buy that as a prop for $500 and put your mount on it. It's like,
that's right.
So and they put some string on and pretend like you're from the 50s. Steve's dad was actually doing it. You talked about elk a little bit. Have you ever killed a bull in California?
No. I don't know anybody. Well, not a Thule. No. All the elk I've ever killed have been in Montana.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I wish I'd draw. It won't be in my lifetime that I ever draw a Thule, probably.
Gosh, it's so expensive. So if you want to do, like my friend, Conservative Game Management, they do Thule hunts. It's like $75,000.
Yeah.
To go on a Thule now to pay for it. And it's just out of my reach, man. Like I got to draw that tag. Eventually I'm going to draw it. I always put in for the random. There's a couple tags out there that only have 1 point. So I put in for those for the random and try and draw it. But I really want to get one because I'd like to get that slam,
Yeah.
I'm sure easy to get a Roosevelt. I already got my Rocky.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a Rosie from Oregon. I was in San Carlos a couple years ago.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, turkey hunting. And some of the elk, and we didn't, during turkey season, they've dropped their antlers. And I think we were there in the third season. And, but I saw pictures, and when you go into San Carlos, there's an office you go into to buy your license and everything. And they had a couple of the 400 inchers, I think, in there.
I want my boys, I've been telling them, just marry a San Carlos Indian, please.
There you go.
Just one of my kids, just do dad a favor, marry a San Carlos Indian so we can get in there and hunt some of these giant bulls.
Yeah, New Mexico is another place. I see when I hunt New Mexico for turkeys, I see a lot of elk. It's a pretty rich area for elk as well. That's another one where management is kind of, screwed the pooch. Between bears and lions and now wolves, they've hurt the deer population.
It's
really
it's a weird state full of hunters, but it's a blue state, so it's like,
yes,
you can't concealed carry in New Mexico, which is shocking to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just one of those states where the whole state is red except for Albuquerque. You know what I mean?
But that's all
and
it
then
takes.
It's just like California, where everyone thinks we're a bunch of freaking assholes, but really most of us are conservative. It's just not most of us, but it's just those couple pockets of LA and San Francisco that really just screw the whole thing for the whole state. It's just, and you see that across the country. Every state has that. Colorado's the same way. I mean, Colorado's banning AR-15s now. They're banning all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And the whole state's red. It's just freaking Denver, man.
I mean, a good example is the mountain lion initiative that we had. It only passed in two places, San Francisco and LA, and it won 51-49. And now it'll never happen again in our lifetime. I mean, it'll take an act of God for us ever to be able to actually hunt mountain. They still manage them to a certain degree, but even here, it used to be pretty easy to get a depredation permit. Not so much now. It's really hard.
Yeah, I wish that what I really would like to see is somehow be able to bring a lion back, because that's what I don't understand is like I won't even go, like I've had a lot of offers to go hunt lions and I'm like I don't even want to shoot one because I don't, even if I like, then there's going to be this like being Tricer, people are going to show up at my house to check my house, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, because like you can't even bring them back if I legally harvest one in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, any of the other states where it's legal. I can't bring one back here, which is baffling to me.
Ludicrous. I mean, it's just, but this is when your Fish and Game Commission and people like that, are, uh, as you're aware, I'm a commissioner here in San Diego County, and it's a politically appointed job, just like our state commissioners are politically appointed. If we had a Republican governor, then we would have probably more conservative and more science-based commissioners, fishing wildlife commissioners in our state, but we don't. And so, I mean, every one of these initiatives that are anti something have a chance in our state because that's who's making the decisions are
The antis.
Antis, liberal Democrats.
So you ended up going. You grew up in like Orange County area up there, the Compton area, right?
Yeah.
And then you end up going to college, right, and playing ball. You ended up playing pro ball for a while, right?
I played at Long Beach City College for 2 years out of high school, and then got drafted by the Mets, and then went to USC and got drafted by the Orioles as a junior, and I signed with the Orioles and played for 3 years, and got hurt a couple times.
You played minors or you ever get to majors?
Minor leagues, yeah. And I had two pretty bad injuries one to my knee, one to my arm.
You were a pitcher.
I was a catcher.
Catcher. Okay.
And never, both injuries had nothing to do with baseball. I did them in the off season, and so it was just luck of the draw. There's a lot of luck involved in making it to the big leagues as well, but it's a business. I mean, you can be their boy, and if things go south, there's somebody always wanting your job. My nephew still, he was rookie of the year in, I think it was 2004, Bobby Crosby, and he is now back with the Oakland A's as a first base coach. So I came from a very baseball oriented family, and so yeah, we still love baseball. Go Dodgers!
Oh God, I forgot. I should have delete that.
Born and raised a Dodger fan. The Padres are my second team, though.
Yeah, they're second team.
There you
like
go.
The ugly stepchild of the
Yeah,
Dodgers.
yeah, exactly.
Guys. So everyone thinks that San Diego and LA are one county, like Southern California. It's not the truth. Like there's a line, and we just don't cross it.
Yeah.
But Steve does.
Yeah.
Steve goes both ways.
I go both ways.
So,
so to speak.
So to speak, yeah, in baseball terms.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but this whole time, hunting is still your passion, and more so. Would it be more for wing shooting at that point? You kind of converted to wing. You're a big wing shooter.
Yeah, I was raised in a pretty strict deer and upland game bird family. Mm-hmm. Because we had so many quail and pheasant and doves around where I lived, and of course rabbits. I started with rabbits like most kids, and then deer hunting at an early age. At 12 years old, I was had shot a deer. I didn't get introduced to duck hunting, which is a huge passion of mine, until 1969. I was in college, and a friend of mine asked me to go duck hunting with him one morning. And it's kind of a funny story. It's Bolsa Chica National Wildlife Refuge today. Back then, it was just called Tin Can Beach and Huntington Beach, and a lot of backwaters and marshes and things. And he invited me to go before school. I said, sure, I'll go with you. And he breaks out these blow-up decoys. They were rubber, and you had this little nozzle on them, and you blew them up, And he started throwing these things out in the water. And I'm going, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, no, these are duck decoys. And I go, really? He goes, we don't like walk around and shoot ducks. And he goes, no, he goes, we sit right here and we hide in this little blind here thing, and ducks come to us. And I thought that was just the greatest thing. And I was hooked from that point on. I've been very involved with waterfowl.
You've had a lab ever since.
And I've had a lab pretty much ever since. Yeah. And worked for the Department of Fish and Game here in San Diego, or in at the Salton Sea at Worcester, 75, 76 hunting seasons, and just have this deep passion for waterfowl hunting. And then turkeys weren't in our county, but I actually have one of my turkey tags from 1971 from Arizona. Again, back in those days, you could buy turkey tags over the counter. Now it's just as hard drawing a turkey tag in Arizona as anything else.
So you guys, I mean, let's talk about, because waterfowl hunting really in Southern California really has, I don't want to say it's died, but it's really gone downhill, especially in the last decade. It's just with the sea drying up and just the migration just really hasn't been making it down here. But you kind of got to hunt this thing in the heyday of honkers and farm fields, and you hunted San Diego Bay, correct?
I hunted San Diego Bay until about 1986. And
year I was born.
Yeah, there you go. And we Oceanside, we had thousands of Canadian geese in Oceanside area. There was an old abandoned duck club over towards the coast, and they roosted on those ponds, and then they would go to barley fields and wheat fields it was all farmland. And this is in the early 90s and 80s. We would hunt, and then Lake Hinshaw had 1,000, 2,000 geese up there because they farmed potatoes around Lake Hinshaw. So we had great waterfowl hunting back in that era of the
really. So like all
80s.
That VID stuff was potato farms.
That and alfalfa.
I had no idea. I mean, gosh, can you imagine how good that would be for hunting?
Yeah, there were a lot of deer too. Deer like potatoes as well.
Potatoes and alfalfa.
If you go down S2 and if you look closely at those fields on the north side of the road, you can see where the rows are. You can still see where the old rows are. Yeah.
Right before you make a right to Ranchita right there.
Yes.
Okay, all that stuff. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
across from the airport.
Yeah, that was all potato fields. And the geese would come from the lake, 2 or 3 miles away. And I mean, you could hear them coming. And it was a great era for waterfowl hunting. And the Salton Sea, I mean, we had, at that time, there were over 7 million pintail. And the majority are in California. And they were in our coastal marshlands. And then, of course, the Salton Sea still had feeder clubs. And I mean, early in the morning, I mean, it was just a sight to see. Thousands upon thousands of ducks, leaving to go roost out in the sea. And then they would trickle back. That is something you don't see anymore at all. And our pintail population obviously is way down. It has nothing to do with loss of habitat. Here, it's loss of habitat in Canada. And in the Missouri Coteau, the farming practices have changed a lot. I go to Canada every year, and ponds, little sloughs in the prairie pothole country, if it's just a shallow depression, they push dirt over it, and that's it. It's gone. And so this kind of farming has done a number on pintail. They like small little potholes, one hen per pothole, but there were thousands upon thousands of potholes. That is nothing like it today. And
in California, I mean, our big environmental loving government hates ducks because they just crush the water. So we just have our flyways that's been decimated from the top down. Yeah. They're just not even making it down here anymore. I mean,
the refuge system is in place. One of the saddest things ever is Tule Lake in Lower Klamath. It was the jewel of the West. I think it was the first national wildlife refuge for waterfowl. I think Teddy Roosevelt actually put that in, and it is pretty much non-existent now. And I don't know about millions, but yeah, probably millions of waterfowl would would winter there and then head south as the weather, gets really cold in northeastern California. And so we've lost all that. So now, and rice is a different, crop than we had back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Probably started. I think they have decomp water now. There's just a lot of changes, and farming practices are better than they used to be. A lot of grain and things were left in the fields because the equipment wasn't very efficient. Now, up in at least Canada, the peas and the barley and the wheat, I mean, there's not much left in the fields unless they get crop damage or something like that. And that's what we look for as we try to find those kind of places. But yeah, we have two places in Southern California for the most part, San Jacinto Wildlife Area and Worcester Wildlife Area. And there's the Colorado River.
Got Barrett, but if you want to go shoot some,
yeah,
some ruddy ducks.
You've got Barrett here locally, but we lost Otay and Sutherland. Sutherland never did really produce much. I mean, it was open. It was part of the City Lakes hunting program, but it was never much of
what
a
about
waterfowl.
Cuyamaca?
Cuyamaca, I think, still has. You hear nothing about it.
I hear nothing about it, and I don't think it's that great. But we still have blinds up there.
Yeah, it never. Well, I can't say never. I mean, maybe back in the day when things were much better, it was good too. The Salton Sea is still huntable. It's going down rapidly, but it's still huntable. Lake Henshaw was really bad this year. We didn't get any migration of widgeon, which are the number one bird there. And so that was really a bust this year. And then there's places around, but yeah, you wouldn't know. I mean, all the hunters here are being squeezed. I mean, you've pretty much got San Jacinto in Worcester Wildlife Area, and so
and even then, we're talking 1 per day bird averages, 2 per day bird averages this year.
The guys that could waterfowl hunt good, they get them. They still get them, and yeah, you just got. We're kind of rolling with the punches. I mean, it's not going to affect me much in my lifetime. I still, can travel, and I go to Canada, which is, like waterfowl heaven, and then Montana is spectacular. And Montana, if you're a bird hunter, is the greatest state in the union for bird hunting of all species. And so I still travel quite a bit. Utah, love Utah. Is another one. It's really, if you're an outdoorsman, it's a great state.
The problem with me is I wish that like I guess you have January, but even then, like I just always find a way to go hunt big game. I'm just kind of like, man, like it's hard for me to get into the birds anymore. I used to be so about it, that, and just I used to do Worcester, a couple times a month, and then then I started drawing these tags, and I just can't get enough of the glassing and trying to that chest match or trying to find that.
Yeah,
deer,
it's two different games. I mean, and it's possible when you get older, although big game it gets in your blood, and that's kind of what rolls around to turkeys. I mean, it's in the spring for one thing, when most other things are closed, and hunting turkeys is kind of like hunting. Well, the closest thing I guess would be archery, probably elk. But it's like deer hunting, but you get this gobble, and the excitement and the adrenaline rush when you get that gobble and you've walked or you've hunted. And hunting San Diego is a little bit different because we're a little bit confined, a lot of private property. There's public, but it's not vast. But when you hunt Montana, Utah, New Mexico, these other states, Alabama, even the Missouri, some of those states, I mean, you get in areas where it's big, and man, you get those gobbles from a distance, especially Merriam's, the mountain turkeys. Man, it is just a rush, and it's more like big game hunting.
We should talk about that. So it's kind of like turkey season's coming up. I'm going to go to Hawaii and hunt in Hawaii with my bow. Turkeys weren't. I mean, let's talk about when did turkeys get introduced to San Diego?
Actually, turkeys were introduced, I think, in the 40s or 50s.
Really?
To San Diego County, but they did not take hold. And it was the type of turkeys they brought in, which I don't know what they were, but I'm guessing they were probably pure Rios, and they can't take a lot of rain. And so I'm just going to use a hypothetical that, say they brought in 50 turkeys and we had a rainy year that year. the poults can't get wet for their first 10 days of life. So if they get wet, they get hypothermia and they die. So that year or those years that they tried to get turkeys into the county, that may have been what happened, but they did not take hold. In 1993, God bless him, John Massey, he was a senior biologist with Department of Fish and Game. And John really took it upon himself with the department. At the time, I was president of Pheasants Forever, SCI, which I think the president was probably Jim Conrad, and NWTF, National Wild Turkey Federation, and Jim might have been the president of that as well, or Stan Landis. Kind of got together and raised money and got the department to transplant birds from Kansas to San Diego. John trapped them there, and he trapped them in Northern California, some around the Sacramento airport and others from San Luis Obispo County. And from 293 turkeys, we at one time thought we were approximately 10,000 turkeys in San Diego County alone. And
yeah,
so,
I mean, they were for a while before the droughts. I mean, they were thriving down to the border.
yeah,
And they are starting to push back out again. This year is going to be pretty brutal on the drought wise. Like we've only had, I mean, I don't even know, half-inch of rain this year. What do you say? I don't know what we had. It's been pretty bad.
it's bad right now.
It's bad. But I mean, we had a 5-year span where we just like all of our little back holes that I jump shoot were dry.
Yeah.
And the turkeys just sucked back into the private and just kind of receded. But hopefully we get some rain and we get these things spread out. But yeah, it's definitely like a major success story what we've done with turkeys in San Diego.
Yeah, it is a major success story, and I hear people, where does our money go with NWTF? Well, if it wasn't for NWTF, we probably wouldn't have had turkeys here. For one thing, this particular chapter, the San Diego chapter of NWTF, I mean, we do a lot for the community. I mean, we really push the the youth hunts. We have hunting on county property, but without NWTF's insurance, we would never be able to have that. The insurance that we have for the Lake Sutherland hunts, that is something that was initiated by NWTF and our board. And the Spring Turkey Tune-Up, which is this coming Saturday, I mean, is the biggest hunting event in Southern California.
Hands down.
Yeah. I mean, it's the biggest, and we cover all our base. We have, I mean, it's a turkey event, but it's like-minded folks. I mean, most of the guys there are probably deer hunters and other kind of hunting in general. And it's something that we don't have much of in Southern California is these kind of events. And for everything that's bad, something good happens. COVID was a bad deal. It was a political deal. But because of COVID, we had to move the Spring Turkey Tune-Up from Lake Sutherland, which is city property, they wouldn't allow it, to Lake Henshaw, where Janice Mendenhall welcomed us with open arms. And from that, we went from 200 or 300 people to 700 people because we have the facility and everything to accommodate something that big. And so it's gotten quite large. And we raffle off the hunts for Lake Sutherland. We have guided hunts. We have firearms raffled off. It's a great day with the family. It's beautiful country, and it's just a great event. It's just a really great event.
Yeah, and when does our turkey season open up here?
The youth season opens the 22nd and 23rd of March, and then the adult season is the 29th and 30th.
Yeah, we're earlier than most states. A lot of states are about a month behind us, but we're out here.
It depends on the state because, like Alabama, some of your southern states, like Florida, opens. I think it's March 1st.
Yeah, the southern states.
Yeah. But your states like New Mexico, Montana, they're all basically Utah or April 15th.
Yeah, April through May.
Yeah.
So they introduced turkeys here. I mean, obviously you're going to hunt them because you're Steve Turigliatto, but like, what? I mean, how do you get into turkeys?
How do you get into
turkeys? How do you get into turkeys? Like, how did that? Because you have the bug, man.
Well,
like, you are a turkey hunter.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, which one of your friends likes turkeys the most? I'd say Steve likes turkeys the most.
Well, in '93, I was the president of Pheasants Forever. I was involved with an organization, and it was Upland Game, And John Massey became a good friend. And we were also putting turkeys or pheasant into places like Worcester and to San Jacinto. So I got to know John very well. And then it just kind of rolled over into the turkeys. I got involved with NWTF, early on. And I didn't hunt them. The first season actually was 93, but they cut the beards off. So, as you're aware, it has to be a visible beard. So they cut the beards off the toms so people couldn't shoot them. Jakes were okay. Well, 94, we had a viable population. Some turkeys, reproduced pretty good. They were released at Eagle Peak Ranch, the Catarina Ranch in Wynola, and the Macaw Ranch at Lake Sutherland. And so those 3 location drop-off spots of those 293 birds did pretty well. Turkeys are very nomadic in springtime. They have what's called a spring dispersal. And one of the hens that was radio collared got a back radio, nested all the way by Lake Hinshaw. She went 17 miles before she nested. And so that's how much they disperse. Well, now Lake Hinshaw is one of the hubs,
they weren't released at Hinshaw.
They were not released at Hinshaw.
No way.
So every turkey you see over there came from Sutherland.
No way.
Yes.
That's like, you got to go up over Black Mountain and drop down through.
Yes.
Wow.
17 miles she went.
Oh yeah, I know. And I know the country. It's not an easy country to get through.
Yeah. And so that's the kind of dispersal. And if you, went to God and said, God, can you make me good turkey habitat? He could make San Diego County, rolling oak tree country, water in a lot of secretive, canyons where they could nest. And
the problem is a lot of that water is on the private, which that's where it gets us here.
And that's one of the reasons turkeys gravitate to private is that they have better habitat. It's normally bottomland, which is what they like as well. And it's got water. Mm-hmm. A lot of them have cattle and a lot of them have horses. Turkeys are like almost any other barnyard animal, man. They go to where the food is. And we are fortunate. We have a lot of acorns. During the drought, our mast was very bad. Our acorn production was very bad. And our water sources were really bad. And so predators hone in on every water source. They just sit there, bobcats especially. They're biggest killer of adult turkeys. But the poults, everything eats them. And so, when the hen brings her poults to a drinking spot, the predators are waiting. And like the last 2 or 3 years, we've had good rain. We've had really great production the last 3 years. And that's because the dispersal of water is so vast. And
the dispersal of water is vast. You get taller grass for the poults to hide in.
Yep.
It spreads them out. And and again, hunters, do your part. Like in California, go shoot. I shot a couple of dogs this year.
Yep.
Like go shoot some dogs at least. We should talk about the bobcat thing because it's so BS.
Yeah.
So I hunted last year. I hate giving up all my spots on here talking about some local stuff. I saw 5 bobcat in a weekend, Steve.
Oh, I see them all the time.
Bobcats are not endangered. It is
not
such BS. They are everywhere, and those things hammer turkeys.
Yep.
Hammer turkeys. And now we cannot pull the trigger on them. And I think it's coming up this year. We might be able to get it back. Hopefully we get it back.
Yes.
We're talking about putting a spring bear season in. But that's another topic.
Yeah.
But it's another topic. But man, let's talk about that. Let's talk about why in the heck would we ban bobcat hunting in California? Because they're everywhere.
Well, we wouldn't. The problem is it's the same it's the same crowd. And they have enough votes and they have a commission that leans to the liberal side. They don't look at the science. Fish and Game actually, I don't know what side Bonham is on sometimes, but he's an appointed guy too. He's our head of the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And, it's crazy. It hurts so many other animals to have bobcats unchecked. That was one of the things I was going to bring up about coyotes. And coyotes most definitely will eat. They're opportunists. They will eat turkeys if they can catch them, but they don't catch them so easy. And a flock of turkeys will literally chase a coyote away. A bobcat is different. A bobcat can handle any turkey, and a flock of turkeys won't chase a bobcat away. And so, one of the things coyotes do to the plus side is that they eat kittens. And so, that is one of the controls we have on bobcats is that coyotes eat kittens, and so do golden eagle. There's a number of other animals. Fox are very hard on poults in any ground nesting bird. We have lots of fox in this
We have
county.
a ton of gray fox in this county.
We have a ton of gray fox,
and you can't shoot those over an e-collar, so it makes it a lot harder too.
Yeah, I mean, another totally stupid rule. Law.
Yeah, you can't use your Fox Pro to shoot foxes in California. You have to mouth call those in. So you call a fox in, you have to be mouth calling, not e-calling.
And there's a season. And that's what they've been trying to push with the coyote thing too.
Yeah, they run the seasons it's like up until March. I think it runs. It's not even that long, but it runs till March, and they shut it down. Yeah.
Crows and ravens are another one. We have seasons on crows now. You've never been able to shoot ravens, but crows have a season and a limit.
When I was a kid, nests.
They hammer eggs and poults. The ravens are very hard on, but when I was a kid, they had crow hunts, and there was a bounty on crows, 15 cents a crow, paid for your shells.
I'll tell you what, if you're listening to this podcast, if you haven't taken a fox pro out and put it on like crow in distress, it is fun. It is fun. But those damn birds are so smart. Once you shoot one, good luck, because those birds are so smart. But yeah, they're fun. Yeah. So I didn't even think about that. You have to go hammer some crows. That'll help out turkeys.
Crow hunting is
and no one does that anymore. No
very really few
doing that.
We still do it. In fact, I'm taking Otto here pretty soon. Season is open, I think, until the middle of April.
April or March, something like that. Yeah, and especially you get some decoys out in the field, some black decoys. And
I have feathered crows and feathered owls. Yeah.
Oh, you're ready to go.
Oh yeah. So I was raised where I shot those a lot too. So our turkeys have done very well. It's a miracle when you see an adult turkey. I'll tell you, it is truly a miracle that it's made it to adulthood with so many predators, and but our population is doing pretty darn good. We're not close to our max where we were, but we do have turkey. I got calls a while back, birds over towards Idlewild. We have birds all the way down to the Mexican border.
There's some birds down in Otay area.
Yeah, Otay, and they're doing pretty darn good. The Hinshaw areas. There's one property there, Vista Irrigation District and the MCC Hunting Club, the VID 12 and 11 in those areas. I mean, there's a tremendous flock of turkeys in there. I posted a picture the other day. I think there's 80 some birds in the picture right off Highway 76. So, and all hens, every single one was a hen. That's what we want to see. Because if each hen can and 4 is a pretty nice number for recruitment. I mean, you can see how the numbers can increase rapidly but we need rain. I mean, I'm praying for more rain.
Let's talk about that county land stuff. So I know it's controversial because you can hunt Vista Irrigation because you have MCC membership. I used to have one.
Yep.
I kind of have an issue with the county land, like the San Diego County stuff getting taken off limits for hunters. And I get it. It's great for MCC members. I don't want but man, I look at that as why is that not public land for our kids to go hunt? Why is it San Diego County land? There's so much county land that we can't hunt. There's some stuff that we had talked about this year. I was like, Steve, you got to get access. I don't want to say the name on here because you hunt around it. There's, I saw 4 flocks of 50 birds on some county land this year that we cannot hunt because it's San Diego County land. Why? Why do we have so much county land that we can't hunt now?
Well,
and then not only that, the freaking River Foundation's screwing us over too, because the River Foundation's taking over all this property.
Yeah.
San Diego River, and then we can't hunt that land.
Yeah. It's the county lands back in the early 90s, we could hunt.
Yeah.
This is Board of Supervisors. When we have conservative, and I'm politically appointed, Jim Desmond is conservative, and so I'm in good standing. But if Jim would lose an election and he's going to term out before long, the next person's a Democrat, I will lose my job as a Fish and Wildlife Commissioner here. So, and right now we're 3-2 to the bad side. And so county lands, a lot of it is run by Parks and Rec. San Isabel East, San Isabel West, those are High C Park. Those are all county Parks and Rec. Even though that's county land, it's run by county Parks and Rec. In their bylaws, it says no weapons in parks. And so we are very fortunate. We got it on the ballot, so to speak, and the Board of Supervisors voted to have 1 weekend a year for us to be able to be turkey hunting on one of the county properties. And that was about 15 years ago, and we've been doing it ever since. And
for kids only. For the
for youth
only, San Ysidro, 1 weekend, they can go hunt these birds on our public lands.
Our public lands. And trust me, Drew, I have tried to get other properties, county properties that are very huntable, that would hurt absolutely nothing or anybody. And I mean, it's not just nobody. It's hell no.
It's just an access thing for me, right? So it's not just like I'm not just Vista, but there's stuff from the border to Henshaw. There's a lot of county stuff now that they're almost using as a way to block access to public. And that's really hard for me, right? There's a few spots that I hunt that we might walk across that land to get to the public. Because it's just, it's just like that. Anything with water, they'll call it county land. So if there's a creek, you want to cross that creek, even though it's 100 foot wide, it's county land to get to vast majorities of public. And that public, everyone's going through to go hiking on and do their crap on, ride mountain bikes on.
Yep.
But you can't hunt it. And it's just, they're using it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out my butt, but I feel like the liberals are using it as a way to block my access to my public lands that we should have a right to hunt. Like when you talk about when you go to Montana, it's the Mecca. Well, they're letting them hunt their public lands. They're letting them hunt the block management stuff, right? Like, man, like why can't we have block management here? Why are we taking? And the crappy thing is, it's always the best stuff.
Yeah,
it's always the river bottoms where all the water is that they're turning into San Diego County land, like the San Diego River Project, where they're trying to turn basically from Cuyamaca to the ocean, this corridor into San Diego River Project. Well, now it's blocking off a few spots I could think of up in like Boulder Creek where I can't get through anymore to public land because they're putting it. San Diego River Project bought the land, and now you can't access the public. Sorry,
there's a few things. I mean, one, Vista Irrigation District is a utility.
Yeah,
that's not county, so it's privately. They have a board of directors and all of that. So
MCC, it's not owned by Vista.
No.
Okay, so it's public. It's private land.
It's private land, and so they have a board of directors, and the Mendenhall family leases all of that.
Okay.
The fact that we get to hunt that is a miracle itself, because for many, many, many years, nobody was allowed to hunt that. And so now at least we have the opportunity.
Yeah.
You can join the club. So between BLM, which we don't have a great deal of BLM.
Border stuff. Basically south of the 8, a lot of stuff down there, and then a lot of stuff kind of, I guess it'd be east of Acumba.
Yeah. There's some around Lake Henshaw, or not next to Lake Henshaw, but next to Vista. There's some BLM. Cleveland National Forest is our best bet.
Yep.
Cleveland's got a lot of acres, but a lot of it's not huntable. I don't have to tell you about our chaparral. I mean, fire is good.
Fire is good, and you cannot get through our chaparral.
Yeah, I mean, the best deer hunting years this county's ever experienced was after 2003 and after 2007. I mean, it was tremendous. The bucks that we were shooting, 200-pound bucks with great antler growth and all of that, was because of those fires. And we haven't had. I don't want anybody to lose their home or anything, but we haven't had a big fire that cleared out our county like those did. And
it's hard. And we're due for a major one.
No.
You think LA was bad? Like we're due. We're 20 years back, and like I spent a lot of times in local mountains, and it is so thick. It's a tinderbox.
Yes,
we are gonna go up at some point, and they're not gonna stop it. We had a good one down at the border when I was in Mexico.
Yeah.
which would be cool for hunting in a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that'll be good.
Yeah. We've dodged a bullet. I just, every time I see one of these Santa Anas coming,
Oh, dude, that
it's going
last
to
one.
happen this time, and it hasn't. So we have Cleveland National Forest, and there's some good stuff on there. I mean, does it get it? Yeah. I mean, anytime you get squeezed, but I hunt when I hunt other states, it's 99% public, and I hunt their national forests. The turkeys gravitate to private there too.
It's on the border, on the edge of it.
Yeah. So I hunt the edges, and
Yep.
I suggest when I speak this coming Saturday, I'll tell people the same thing. You know, onyx is a wonderful thing. I mean, I'll tell you what, you can e-scout, you can see things that I never was able to see. Those 2 feet right there is what showed me stuff. You know, I mean, I had to walk.
Yeah, the problem with onyx is you realize how much you used to poach.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get onyx, you're like,
Yeah.
oh man, like the stuff I was in the early 2000s, I'm like, oh, it was all over private land.
Oh, I
you,
mean,
you didn't know back then.
Yeah.
People weren't so touchy about it now.
I mean, nobody, you know, they said, well, this is my land. Well, what's their imaginary line, you know, in the dirt? I mean, it's not posted legally. And in a court of law, it has to be posted legally. So,
you know, the big maps, the big Cleveland National Forest maps, you know,
we
have roll them out, and you're like, oh, I think I'm on good. You know?
So you know, onyx is a game changer. It's probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, invention of our times as far as hunting goes.
I'm wearing an onyx shirt right now.
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna go hunting with Dylan from Onyx this year. Thinking about doing some whitetails together.
Yeah, there you go.
So let me propose something to you, because you're on the board. So here's my issue with San Diego deer hunting: 3,000 rifle tags for a month. Why can't we break that up even into 2 seasons, 1,500 each? 1,500 tags for 2 weeks, 1,500 tags for 2 weeks. Why can't we do something like that? Or why can't we do 3 seasons that are 10 days? 3 10-day seasons where we give these deer a chance, Steve. And also it doesn't give, you know, it just, I don't know. It just seems asinine to me, the deer population we have. I hunted 10 solid days in San Diego this year. I saw 80 deer, 4 spikes, not 1 buck.
Yeah.
And I can glass. Like, it's not a lack of being able to skill in San Diego County. It's just like, it's almost like a luck thing anymore. And if you see a buck, any buck, you're going to shoot it, right? Any legal buck, which would be a branch antler on one side, is going to get shot in this county. Man, like, I just feel like we're not, that's 3,000 rifle tags for buck. It doesn't include our A22 tag that's good for archery for 2 months for doe and buck. It doesn't include our muzzleloader season, which is good for, I think, 100 tags. And it doesn't include our G13 season, which is 300 tags. So we're giving out over 5,000 tags in San Diego County. But basically from September 1st through December 31st, there's a deer season open in this county. How do we change that?
Well, buddy, you're preaching to the choir, but I think it's just absolutely absurd that we have 3,000 tags. First of all, it should be 1 tag per.
100%.
If you, for folks that don't know, I can buy a D16 and then I can buy another D16. So I can have 2 buck tags for this county. I can have an A22 archery and a D16 buck. For this small little county to have that many deer tags is just crazy. Your question was, how do we change it? You can start by letter writing. You can go to the department and say, hey, this is my feeling about this. Eventually it has to go to the commission and they make a decision, or Region 5 makes a decision, you know, that they can start trying to drop the tags. It's changed. You know, I mean, I think does the G13 tag, I think it was 500 at one time. I think it's down to 250 now. So it can be changed, but it's a bit of a process.
I think that doe tag should only be a youth tag.
I
think that doe tag should be a youth tag.
No argument
that's
here.
It. And that's the only reason we pick it up is for the kids.
Yeah. And this is one of the arguments I have, and Janice Mindenall, who, you know, runs the entire MCC hunting club, doesn't allow any does on Vista irrigation property to be shot. Okay. In fact, none of the club, which is also on Palomar and Mesa Grande, we have the largest population of deer in the county.
Yeah,
and
100%.
we are not allowed to shoot does, and you're only allowed to shoot one buck.
Yeah.
So, geez, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just a microcosm of the big picture, but it's the exact same habitat. It's 40,000 acres. We have a really solid deer population, whereas the rest of the county, like you said, if anybody sees a spork, he's getting shot, and that's a vicious circle. You wonder why there's not bigger bucks.
Oh, a buck over 100 is very rare
oh
in San Diego County. Like,
Yeah.
a 3x3 buck is like, hey,
Yeah.
nice buck.
yeah,
You know, it's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's they're rare to get, especially on
Yeah.
public land. I did see a couple, when I say giants, I mean 120, 130 deer last year.
Mhm.
We've been watching, but that was last season. We just couldn't get them killed. This year, I couldn't find a buck for the life of me.
Yeah.
It also has to do with me just being out of town so much and getting in
Yeah.
here like the second week of the
Yeah.
season. But man, like if you were commissioner for a day, how would you change it? You'd cut the tags in half and just say just one tag each?
I'd cut it in half at least. And
Well, what if we
one
don't
tag
cut it in
lease.
half and we cut the seasons in half and make 2 seasons?
That would be fine too.
Right? We can
mean,
save a
We
month season.
hunt, right during the rut.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that, is because of our habitat. It is so hard to get bucks to come out of chaparral. I don't remember when the study was. It was probably in the 90s. Kevin Brennan and John Massey, I think, were the head of that. They radioed some bucks. And those bucks, and it was on MCC, it was actually on Cleveland, but it was next to MCC property. Those bucks never left a 1 mile radius their entire lives, except for the rut. And so they come out of that thick country and will follow does, because the does go most everywhere. And they would come out maybe for a night or two, breed or push a doe back into the thicker stuff, and that would be it. So when we get fires, it opens up country that we can't see. And plus the habitat, obviously the feed and everything gets way better. But that backside of Vulcan, when we had those big fires, especially the 2007 fire, that cleared out so much acreage that you could actually glass. You could actually see, and you couldn't believe the amount of deer and quality bucks that were in those kind of areas. Drew, we can't see a lot of what we see.
Oh no, now it's so thick now. I mean, it's just unreal. And honestly, even the rut thing has been kind of thrown off. Like the best rutting I saw this year was during the A22 season in September.
Yeah.
The best rutting I saw was September. Our bucks kind of like, they kind of rut for like 2 or 3 months. Yeah. It's not like this, like, oh, we like it turns on like in Arizona for 2 weeks. It's just like, I think because our population is so scarce.
Yeah.
Like I said, I saw 80 does and no bucks right this year. And that's 10 days of glassing. And I think those does just have to turn it back on a couple of times to get bred, and they have to come back into it, because they're not gonna not get bred. So you gotta keep turning it on. And then you're also seeing these little dinky bucks. You just don't have the manager. You see little dinky bucks breeding them, and they'll get bred by anything because we just don't have the population.
We have a long breeding season. In fact, I think Massey or one of them told me that we have the longest breeding season in the country. We're kind of, we have a lot of different habitats here. The does, control everything. I have, properties that I have permission on or control. I'll see deer breeding, or acting like they're going to breed in September, but I have good pictures of breeding in January. I have bucks fighting in January. They lose their antlers. In fact, I got a picture on one of my trail cams, a digital camera, yesterday of a buck, and you can see his antlers are just gone. And he's right in the camera, so you can see it clearly. So here we are in February, and he's lost his antlers, and I've got pictures of them fighting in January. So yeah, I wish we could. It's a campaign that we could start, Drew. I mean, we can start a campaign to drop, and people are going to scream and yell. Then let's drop the tags to 1.
Yeah,
we don't have that many guys buy 2 tags, and let's just drop the tag to 1 tag then, for the county. If we sell out, we sell out.
Well, it force guys to do Like I wouldn't mind dropping the tag to 1, and I would like to see the season split up. I'd like to see the season split up. I'd like to see I'd like to see G13 turn into UTech. I don't think any of those are unreasonable things. I think that if you said, hey, you know what? You're going to get 2 weeks to hunt deer in San Diego now, one of these 2 seasons. Yeah. You know, you put your first, your second and third choice, whatever you want to do. You're going to draw the tag no matter what, whether you get it on your second choice or your third choice.
Yeah.
It would help our population.
Yeah. You know, there's one other thing, and I know this I'm not going to say it's going to ruffle feathers, but the archery equipment of today, the muzzle loaders of today, are not what this was intended for originally.
Mm-hmm.
Guys shooting recurves and shooting old, traditional muzzle loaders, it was difficult. I mean, to shoot a muzzle loader, you basically were like an archery hunter. I mean, you had to get in 50 yards or closer. Archery was the same way. I mean, now guys are telling me, I shot that buck at 86 yards and this and that, and just how steady you can be and all the things that go with the modern day archery equipment versus what a lot of these old laws because I mean, San Diego County has had this, ever since they started where they made it D16. So middle 80s. It's changed a lot. I'm guessing, I mean, you're aware that at least our state, I don't think you're allowed optics on muzzle loaders in California.
No optics on pretty much every state now except for Arizona. Yeah, I mean, they pretty much got rid of it. I mean, my friend Luke from Arrowhead Rifle 2 was on a couple of weeks ago. He builds the best muzzle loaders in the world, and they're shooting open sight muzzle loaders 600 yards. So he's building single shot rifles. They're awesome. I mean, God bless America, man. Like, we are awesome. Yeah. But man, with the scope on them, these are 800,000 yard rifles.
Just shooting a rifle,
single shot, 45 caliber rifles. Yeah. So I mean, I get the pullback on that, right? Yeah. Coming back to I've said it a million times on this podcast. I support open sight muzzleloader hunting.
Yeah,
I don't think we should have optics on our muzzleloaders. It's just too much, right?
Yeah. Well, then I mean, would you say there's 500 of those?
What?
How many muzzleloaders in San Diego?
I think we have 100 only.
100. Okay.
80 or 100 muzzleloader tags.
Okay. Well,
it is a late season tag. It's not. Yeah. It's like I think it's like December 15th through 31st.
See, and that's not a huge plus. That
doesn't bother me too much.
It's almost after.
It's after the rut. It's a tougher tag. I'm cool with the 80 tag thing.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with even the 3,000 tag thing. But we don't even sell out every year. So there's always 400 left over. So we always buy a second tag. All of us do.
Yeah.
Just to keep our friends out of the hills, right?
Yeah.
If I have an extra, I'll buy an extra tag. I haven't hunted. I mean, I guess I did hunt D16 by myself this year. Most of I was hunting with my kids.
Yeah.
But man, like just to split up into a couple seasons. Give me 3 10-day seasons. I mean, every other state has a 5-day deer season. San Diego's got a 30-day deer rifle season.
Yeah.
Like if we were to change a season to a 5-day season and do 2 of them.
Yeah.
Our population would boom.
Yeah. Why
not? Why not do 5-day seasons? And you got to take off work. You hunt it like you're going to hunt it, not like you just go up every, I can get out there, 10 times over a month. You got 5 days to hunt it. You go hunt it. If you don't want to hunt it, then tough. Deer made it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot going on that time.
There's no reason. I mean, and it's like, you don't have a 30-day season in any, like A zones, it's 2 weeks. We do have longer seasons in California. Granted, I mean, like, not 2 A zones. I mean, the X zones are like a 2-week season. We do have a longer season. I mean, most states are in that 5 to 7 day range. Some are a little bit longer, 14 days for archery. But man, like, just give us 2 7-day seasons.
It's something if you want to.
I know I should.
We can. Hey, I'll do my part. I am in total agreement that I don't get the 3,000 tags for this little tiny county.
Well, we keep the 3,000 tags and make the season shorter, and it forces people to actually get out and hunt. We might actually see more deer get killed because it's going to force guys to get out and hunt.
Yeah,
honestly.
Well, I want some relief for our deer. I mean, is kind of what I want.
That's what I'm thinking with the season. With living in the seasons, you might get that relief, and that would. Yeah. It's a way that everyone's still going to get their tag, still get to go hunting, but it's going to give our deer, a chance.
Yeah, I mean, in back to turkeys, we're allowed 3 turkeys in this state.
And hens in the fall.
And you can shoot 2 hens in the fall. And I have beat this horse to death. Please don't shoot hens here in San Diego. If you want to go to Northern California and shoot a hen, they have lots of turkeys. Hey, go for it. but here, which, we're kind of like an island down here when it comes to turkeys, and game for that much, even deer. We're kind of separated from everything down here. And when you shoot hens, I mean, it just, it's just one more chance that we're not going to be able to have poults for the following spring. And when our turkey population really got low, I was on the soapbox. If we ever lose our turkeys, if we ever run out of turkeys, if we don't have some kind of seed, we will never, ever get them back. That the Antis of California, they're a non-native species. They absolutely hate them, and we'll never get them back in San Diego County. And so, I mean, gosh, go buy a butterball.
Go buy a butterball in the fall. They taste a lot better.
I mean,
the turkeys don't taste that great.
Yeah, there's so many things to hunt in the fall. God, give our turkey. You're probably aware of this, or may not be. When we put those 293 here, there was no fall season in San Diego County. And that was because they tried to get the turkeys, relocated back in the day. And so they made no fall season. And then I've had people tell, well, it doesn't make any difference. Well, if it doesn't make any difference, why did they have a no fall season? And one of the problems, because about the same amount of turkeys were released in San Bernardino National Forest, and they didn't make it. But there was fall seasons. Guys were shooting them in the fall, quail hunters and people like that. And before you knew it, the population was gone. Yeah, the weather had something to do with it too. We had a lot of snow those years, and turkeys can't handle a lot of snow if it's prolonged, and so we don't get enough snow to hurt our turkeys. So,
man,
yeah,
that was an awesome podcast, Steve. Steve, how can we help like SoCal guys? Where can we help to benefit NWTF and things you're doing with kids and stuff?
One is attend the spring turkey tune-up. We have June 21st. We have our Jake's event. You can go to our webpage. It's NWTF San Diego chapter or SoCal Turkey Hunting. Those are two pages or two. What are they called? Not pages. Web pages that I have, and so we update those. All we have our flyers on there and everything. We have monthly meetings. The third Monday of every month, the exception I think of December, possibly November, we have monthly meetings. So we're like a club. We're the exception to NWTF. We treat our chapter like it is a club. We have a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer. We have a board of directors. We vote on things. Last year we've been doing it for a while, but last year we bought turkeys and turkey dinners for veterans at VFW for Christmas. We have our Jake's event, like I said, in June 21st this year. It's 105 kids get to learn and get introduced to the gun sports, archery, tomahawk throw, turkey biology, no charge. We have our youth hunt with the county. We get charged to use the rangers. The money that we raise goes towards those things. So if you want to get involved, just attend our meetings. They're fun meetings, and there's a lot of. I mean, like I said,
you guys meet at like Pernicanos, right? Or where do you guys meet at?
We meet Felipe's. At Hamburger Factory.
Oh, Hamburger Factory. Well, didn't you used to be at Felipe's for a while?
Yes.
Oh, you did.
Well, we did for a while, and then the room. I don't know what happened, but Hamburger Factory lets us use their room.
Oh, cool.
This next meeting is actually the fourth Monday because they're closed because it's not Valentine's Day. It's
President's Day.
Nah, it's one of them. But whatever it is, they've got a big holiday thing going. Maybe it is Valentine's. So anyway, we have meetings the third Monday of the month, and come join us. I mean, and you can ask a lot of questions there in person to guys that really know their stuff about hunting, not just turkeys, all game. And I've now that we started these meetings and things, and it's been quite a long time, a lot of great new friends, guys I hunt with now, and I only hunt with kind of people and finding a good hunting partner is not easy. And most of these guys now either hunt with each other or we all feel comfortable hunting with
Yeah, I'm friends with a bunch of like Phil and Fabian, and
Yeah.
just a bunch of guys up there that have just been
Yeah.
gotten to know over the years. It's
Yeah.
especially in SoCal, we're such a small community of hunters.
Yes.
There's not really many guys we don't like, and
Yeah.
if you are somebody we don't like, we just shun you. So
Yeah.
so come on down.
Yeah.
But Steve, I appreciate everything you do for the youth sports, for the hunting sports, for California. You are standing on the soapbox, like you said, and let's do it again, my friend.
Thanks, Drew.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, buddy.